Hey Screen Watcher, welcome back to another Double Take Review, where we give you our 2-take double dose injection of pop culture criticism because that's what the doctor ordered. Just as a heads up, first half of the show will be spoiler free for your convenience, at which point we'll be swinging into spoiler territory where we put a big warning on the screen just to let you know, all courtesy of our in-house symbiote monkeys. Without further ado, action! What are we watching?
We are watching Venom.
Aren't you Eddie Brock? I used to be.
We are Venom.
We have a parasite. We saw Venom. What do you think, Ben?
For the past 2 months, like a predator, we've been looking for a good movie to review, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this movie.
Really?
I really did. While, I was waiting to go see the movie and do the review, I just tried to avoid the Rotten Tomato and but I did see on the internet, it's like, oh, this movie is the worst movie of all time. This movie is terrible. But I had fun. It kind of reminded me of the first Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. It's kind of goofy.
Yes.
It's not the greatest, but then you have fun. Like, if you're going there expecting the movie to be like a Marvel movie, it's not a Marvel movie.
For sure.
If you expect it to be a DC movie, it's not a DC movie. It's like a creature of its own.
Yeah, it is. I would say for me, it was kind of like a roller coaster. There was a moment in the middle of the film that really made me feel like, oh my God, are they making a good superhero movie? And it's not MCU. But then there was another time that had a double effect on me, but in a negative sense. And I was like, I can't believe they're doing this. And then, so it really was kind of like that for me. It was ups, very low downs, and ups again. And ultimately, I think it's a pretty mediocre film.
Oh.
But I did have fun, and I don't think the movie's horrible. And it, like I said, it has some really big highs and some really low lows. I do feel that this plot is a little weak, but the characters, I feel, were... they were what was really driving the film.
Well, tell me about the characters. I know Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
As
Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
I actually think that character was a little weak. I'd never cared for Eddie. This is a villain, and so it's interesting having a villain as your protagonist, and you have to follow them along.
But I kind of like the story. The fact that maybe he was morally compromised from the very beginning. The thing that he did that messed up his life, messed up the girlfriend's life.
And that's kind of why they meshed well. Yeah, I got that. I thought that was cool. But Venom on the other side, I actually think Venom is a great character. I said that he's never made out to be a hero, and they really lean into him being a villain. They never once make him you never feel for him, but you just think he's cool. Mm-hmm. You think he's vicious and he's scary and he's cool, but you never are like, oh, he's a hero. So I kind of got the whole anti-hero thing with him because you think he's so cool, but he's not a hero. Okay. And I think that's kind of what the anti-hero is in a lot of cases. But yeah, I thought Venom was really cool. I thought the interchange between him and Eddie was really cool. And that scene that I was talking about where I thought was really cool in the middle, it's when they're under the bridge and the Venom symbiote pops out of his chest and he's talking to him. Mm-hmm. And I liked the low bass in that conversation of his voice. And Eddie is really scared. Mm-hmm. And I kind of got scared. And I was like, oh my God, they're making a great film. This is perfect. Making this thing taking over you and he's scared. But he's kind of going with it too because he's not as strong as Venom.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. I really wish they had leaned more into it. But they offset everything by having Venom have an inner monologue in Eddie's head. Mm-hmm. And he says funny little jokes to him. And they weren't really... I didn't laugh at those jokes. There's one that I laughed at. It's when they're going down the elevator.
No. That was hilarious.
Yeah, the rest of it I thought was a little weird. I think that tonally it had some problems differentiating itself between, is it a comedy, is it a horror, is it a superhero movie? So I just think it was a little tonally unbalanced.
I would say yes, it is definitely not a perfect movie. It can be all over the place from the beginning until the end. Some characters just drop off. that science lady.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she died, right? They killed,
Yeah,
like
I was listening to a podcast. I guess she's a comedian.
yeah,
but
she was on the SNL.
She was never. What a weird role for her to be in. Like, why not make her more comedic? I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are multiple symbiotes in this movie. You can see that in the trailer. But I just wish that their backstory was fleshed out a bit. The main antagonist of the film is the human, Riz Ahmed. He is the main antagonist of the film for Eddie. And then there's also another symbiote antagonist in the movie called Riot. And I just thought that the backstory of the symbiotes could have been explored a little bit because it was interesting. Mm-hmm. And I liked Venom's reasoning that drove his character too. I thought that was cool. It's just like they explain it to you real quick.
Well, I got it. But like, I know, some people don't like that. They think like it's just like all of a sudden why we have this change of heart. But personally, to me, that made sense. Why he wants to, Venom wants to stay on Earth.
Makes perfect sense. Like I said, he's selfish and he's vicious, and they really did a good job portraying that. What did you think of the female love interest?
I think that was like the worst part of the movie. I thought like that was really, they could have done a lot better. So I was kind of disappointed in how they went about it, and like they have Michelle Williams, and she's great in other movies, but not so great in this movie.
There was really only one interaction that she had in the movie where I was like, that made me feel something, and that was when she, I guess this might be a spoiler, but her and Eddie are on rough times, and so while that was going down, I was like, oh wow, that's shocking. But other than that, the rest of the film is just pretty bland to me. And they're also, one of the reasons I say that is because by the end of the movie, you would expect her to act a certain way given the experiences that had gone down, and she doesn't. Right. She doesn't act. There's no repercussions. There's nothing cerebral or nothing emotional, consequence-wise, that she portrays.
Right. No, I just like What did you think of the rating of the movie? This was supposed to be R-rated, but then they just like no, we're gonna do PG-13.
I guess the Sony executives were like, we need to make this PG-13 because we want to make as much money as possible. It's a different time though, because we've seen movies like Deadpool and Wolverine or Logan get R ratings, and they do very well. I actually think that they probably should have done it in this one too, especially since they were so willing to have Venom be so vicious. There are a couple of things he does in the film that were really cool, but I wanted to see more of that. Because you get this feeling that he really is that dangerous, but we don't really get to see that as often as we would have liked because of the being held back by the PG-13 rating.
I mean, Sony does have a track record of making bad decisions, so... I don't know if that, with the critical, reception that this movie is getting, I'm pretty sure they're gonna make the second one if this movie makes money.
They do set up something for a sequel, which we'll go into more in spoilers. Yeah. But
is there anything else before we go to spoilers that you want to talk about, or are you ready?
I think the film is mediocre. I'm a comics fan and a all things nerd culture fan, so like I had to see it. And Venom interests me too, but I think if you're comparing it to like such high caliber other superhero movies that we've had given to us by the MCU, it's nowhere near that. And tonally, it's all over the place, and you can tell that it stretches to sort of expand its universe because it's not attached to any other universe. As much as Sony would like it to be included with the MCU, it's not. And so by the end of the film, you really see how they're stretching. But I don't know, if $10 is no big deal to you and this character mildly interests you, I would go see it. But you'll probably forget it immediately afterward. That's my opinion. What do you think?
The hot take is you should go see it. I had a lot of fun. This is not the greatest movie of all time, but for some reason, it just reminded me of the first Spider-Man. If you go back and look at the first Spider-Man, it's actually kind of goofy, not that great, but it's a good time. I think you should definitely go see it.
All right. Well, I think it's time that we cue the spoiler monkeys.
So there are 2 post-credit sequences.
Yes.
What did you think of the first one?
There will be carnage.
And who's Carnage?
Cassidy. Cage is last name. Not for sure of his last name, but Carnage is the spawn of Venom in the comics. And Spider-Man and Venom team up to go up against him because Carnage is like way more of an issue than Venom ever was. Primarily because of the host being so crazy. And he's a serial killer.
So you were saying something about like stretching it at the end. Was that the stretch?
Yeah, because it's a movie about a villain, okay? Who's an antagonist for the villain? The superhero, the hero. But Sony doesn't have access to the hero, which is Spider-Man, a really strong hero for Venom. So what they did instead was pull another villain, which he's had issues with in the comics before, so it makes sense. But still, those 2 characters, Carnage and Venom, are any of them really that interesting if Spider-Man's not involved?
No.
So
I mean, I think there are talks of maybe bringing Spider-Man.
Dude, but all of the fans of the MCU would throw a fit if Kevin Feige had to come out and say, "Oh, Venom is actually part of the MCU." I'd be like, "No!" Wouldn't you be pissed off? I don't think that it was anywhere near the quality of.
No, definitely not. MCU is on a league of its own.
So if they had to rope the new Spider-Man into this movie, Tom Holland, then I think I'd be a little disappointed. I'd be happy to see Spider-Man, but I think that'd be the end of the MCU. I think things would start to crash down if they ever did that.
I don't know. I think it would be nice to have a cameo at least, not even like in a full role, maybe.
I don't know. I guess it's going to get complicated because you can tell that Sony wants to build up to that, but whether Kevin Feige and the MCU is going to allow it, I don't know. But Carnage should be cool if they play him right going forward. He's supposed to be incredibly crazy and violent. They're going to need an R rating. They cannot do Carnage in a PG-13 rating. It's just not going to be very good.
I don't know. I mean, Sony again makes just the worst decisions ever. Just look at the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I mean, I honestly think that this was a step in the right direction. At least they didn't decide to go back and like redo the things that they did before. So this to me looked like a movie that can stand on its own. As far as how they can go from here, it really depends on how much money it makes, and we'll see. I think the buzz around it is a little negative, so we'll see.
Yeah. There's a line in the film talking about how Eddie got the interview of a lifetime. I thought maybe that meant that he was going to go to the Bugle in New York, which is where he worked with Peter Parker. So we'll see if that leads to anything. But it's also interesting in that, we had that excellence with Spider-Man 3 and Black Spider-Man dancing in the street. We're never going to have that again. We're not going to have a proper Spider-Man and Venom film for a long time, I don't think. Right. I think it's going to be a series of people coming out and saying it is a part of the MCU and other people coming out and saying it's not. And Sony continuously trying to hint that Spider-Man is a part of this universe. So that's kind of upsetting, is that I don't think we're going to see a proper Venom and Spider-Man film mesh together for a long time. I think fans would really like it too. Well,
we did see Spider-Man in the second post-credit sequence, but
the
animated Spider-Man,
which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen for a while. I think this is something to sort of wet your whistle. We haven't seen Venom since 2008, right?
The third
yeah. And so it's nice and cool to see him properly fleshed out, and he looks cool. He looks like the comics. He's played by a buff dude.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, but it's just at the same time you're like, it's not still what it could have been. And I actually think that's because of the absence of Spider-Man. But given what it was and some of the cool nods about showing Carnage at the end, those are cool. And I'm not like a super big comics enthusiast, but even at the end when they introduced Carnage, I was like, oh my God, it kind of got me excited. So I think if they can continuously do that, if they do sequels, then I think they'll make a franchise on its own, and hopefully the second one is better. But
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please like and subscribe, and we're going to be back with more movie reviews for you.
Yeah, and we'd like to end the show with a very heartfelt thank you to all of our dedicated spoiler monkeys. We hope to catch you again. Keep on screen watching.